I'm very grateful to Pyotr Lushvin for the information he has provided, because fires that occur along the faults become more and more frequent for a reason. Next, you will learn why they began to increase in certain places. We've been talking for years about the causes of global climate change, about the 12,000-year cycle of cataclysms, and about what will happen. But what I want to share with you now turned out to be a shock to me personally. I naively believed that there are areas on Earth that would be less prone to cataclysms, where earthquakes or volcanic eruptions don't happen, because they are far from the coastline for a tsunami to break through here. I thought that such a safe place was Siberia. But it turned out that I was deeply mistaken, and already in the near future, a devastating disaster could happen there, which would be fatal for all humankind, and you'll understand now why. For 10 years now, people have been trumpeting that Russia is heating up 3-4 times faster than the rest of the world. But have you seen how it exactly heats up? Look at this huge red spot that shows how atmospheric temperatures in Russia have changed over decades. Isn't it weird that this spot is located in the center of the country, in Western Siberia, where the age of the plates is relatively young, and the plate itself is thinner? Precisely in this area, the permafrost degrades most rapidly. Isn't that strange? So what is the reason for the abnormal heating of Western Siberia? No, not in greenhouse gas emissions. The reason is the movement of the Earth's core. Rybakin's works showed that even with small vibrations and movements of the core, all mantle layers experience deformations. In the late 19th, there was a jump of the core in the northern direction. The core shifted along the line from West Antarctica to West Siberia to the Taimyr Peninsula. The heat from the bowels now comes asymmetrically, and this is probably the reason why the glaciers in West Antarctica are melting the fastest. What is happening in Western Siberia? Heated fluids and magma rise higher to the junctions of the lithospheric plates, to the ocean floor and to the Earth's surface in the direction of the core's pressure. Currently, beneath Western Siberia, heat is accumulating in the upper layers of the mantle. The push of the core towards the Taimyr Peninsula creates conditions for the emergence of deep magma sources. Already now, the thin lithospheric crust beneath Western Siberia starts to be eroded by magma and becomes thinner. The works by Igor and Elena Morozova from the University of Wyoming back in 1994-97 indicated the weakening, severe heterogeneity and signs of melting of the lower lithosphere, as well as the strong influence of the melts in the mantle on the tectonic processes of the central part of Western Siberia. But what's not all, the rigid basis of the foundation of the Western Siberia plate is not monolithic. These faults are now beginning to crack. Seismicity is appearing where it didn't exist before, and this begins to affect even the neighboring, ancient thick plate of West-Eastern Siberia. Between the blocks of the rigid foundation of Western Siberia, at a depth of 2-3 kilometers, there are deep trenches called rifts, filled with the sediments of a volcanic catastrophe that happened long ago. 250 million years ago, at the turn of the Permian and Triassic periods, the Earth was splitting apart here due to catastrophic eruptions that formed nearby magnetic layers called the East Siberian Traps. During these eruptions, the Earth experienced its greatest extinction, the Permian extinction, in which 19% of all species became extinct. And now this disaster could happen again. Already now, in various regions, magma begins to anomalously heat the plate. Groundwater boils and water vapor warms the atmosphere. The hydrothermal potential of the West Siberian plate has long been known, but the paradoxical thermal anomalies that have appeared in recent decades are alarming. Boreholes show unexpected values of water temperatures compared to neighboring areas. Look at the map. The modern increase in geothermal heat in the north is now directly above the ancient rift, exactly where the crust split 50 million years ago. About the other branch of the rift, in the southwestern part of the plate, water in people's wells suddenly starts boiling. And right now, in winter, in December, despite the frosts, peat bogs are burning under the snow. In addition, the North magnetic pole is now drifting in this direction with acceleration, and in the outer core, right under this zone, the molten iron flow is accelerating. What does this indicate? The proximity of new catastrophic eruptions. And there are still many such areas with thin crust on the planet. And it is curious that it is in these regions that the number of forest fires has increased due to increased natural decaying along faults. Current trends suggest that in the coming decades, magma will start popping up in various places around the world, saying hello to us. The solid ground beneath our feet is beginning to crumble, even where we hoped we could be safe. If it is still not obvious that the problem is in magma, very soon everyone will be convinced of it. But what is happening now? National governments are afraid to tell the truth because they fear panic. One can understand them because they have nothing to offer people, because then the question will arise, how are governments preparing for the coming events? Meanwhile, governments are raising money to fight against CO2. How's that? And scientists echo this lie and engage in some nonsense with this notorious carbon dioxide, just to make a little more money for the last time. Because of such collaborationists, we are totally unaware. Meanwhile, the inevitable is getting closer, and we have no way to counteract it. I'm also afraid of what is going to happen. But, it's even scarier if we lose our time and our chance. And the responsibility for the death of billions of people in the next decade will be on our conscience. No, we will not allow civilization to perish because of our pride, laziness or cowardice. And we have a solution, the only one and the most effective. We need all the scientists of the world to stop concentrating on their own narrow topics and mundane problems and combine their accumulated enormous amounts of knowledge and skills. Is it really difficult to establish communication between people? Just imagine, thousands of volunteers have been preparing for this conference. If we all begin to act to achieve the single greatest goal of our time, the survival of all mankind, in the shortest time possible, we would study all aspects of the ongoing climate change, and we would already be able to begin to find a mechanism to counteract it. But this is only possible if we format of the creative society. Otherwise, there is no other way. So isn't it time to roll up our sleeves and join the ranks?